Put like T-bits in the hole.
Right.
Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
All right, it's now 7:01, and we will now call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First item on the agenda is a review of the minutes from our last meeting. Any changes? You should all have a revised copy that didn't get sent in your packet because there were some typos and it was laying here. So it's mainly just name changes, I believe.
Yes.
Any questions, comments on the last meeting's minutes? I'll entertain a motion then.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, have a motion and a second. All those in favor approve the minutes? Passes unanimously. Second item on our agenda tonight is, my fingers will work, it's cold in here. This is a discussion and action item. Consider and act upon a request by Roberto Hernandez to approve a minor plat for the Hernandez Edition at or about 479 Polly Road. Mr. DeAngel?
Good evening, Commissioners. The applicant is the owner of an unimproved property, residentially zoned, located at 479 Polly Road. The tract of land is approximately about an acre, 0.98 to be exact. He's requesting approval in order to plat a lot to create a single-family home. The property resides in SF2 single-family zoning district and meets nearly all of the dimensional requirements with the exception of 0.02 acres in size, which is our lot size requirement for, 1 acre is our lot size requirement for an on-site septic system. However, the planning and engineering staff has determined that a variance is not required to approve the plat since it's an extremely small amount of land. The lot is lacking and there is no town sewer services in the area. The setbacks of the property are going to be 70 feet in the front, 30 on the sides, and 80 on the rear. At the top, our staff recommendation stated that we recommend approval and that the applicant shall furnish a copy of a deed for the sale of the western portion of the property to Texas Utilities Electric Company. However, the applicant has furnished that deed for us just recently, so we recommend full approval. What?
Okay. Any questions for town staff? Okay, this is a discussion action item. We do not open a public hearing on this or a public meeting, but if there's anybody that'd like to approach and discuss it or say anything about it, you're more than welcome to. If not, then we'll entertain questions and comments from the commission. Any discussion? If not, a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minor plat for the Hernandez Edition at or about 479 Polly Road.
A second.
It's been motion and second. All those in favor? Approved. Moving to item number 3. This is a public hearing item. Hold a public hearing, consider and act upon a request by Michael Gola, RML Motley LLC, to approve a specific use designation and site plan for a contractor shop use at or about 315, 317 US Highway 80. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, the applicant has submitted an application for an SUD, special use designation, to allow for subtractor shop use. The request is for an installation contractor business, which qualifies as a contractor shop according to our UDO. Subject property is zoned highway commercial, and specific uses are those which are generally compatible with the permitted land uses in a given zoning district, but which require individual review of their location, design, and configuration, and the imposition of conditions in order to ensure the appropriateness of the use at a particular location in a given zoning district. The applicant has stated that the site will house very few employees throughout the day and will seldom, if ever, be used open to the public. The majority of the square footage of the structures will be for business equipment storage and will be in the main structure, which is the warehouse you see there. The other structure to be utilized will be a shed or barn, kind of a modular type building adjacent to the warehouse, which will serve as offices for less than half a dozen employees. I think he communicated to us at most 4. The barn structure and the land in the rear lot north of the warehouse will not be utilized by the tenants, and it's restricted by the lease agreement. This type of SUD does not include outdoor storage of usable materials. The subject property lies to the west of a power line easement, to the south of a single-family residential subdivision, and the property to the west is owned by the applicant and is being leased to a communications business. The highway frontage road abuts to the south, US Highway 80 to the south. So basically, this property is going to be a redevelopment, not a new development. So they're going to be renovating the exterior of the existing structure with a masonry skirting on the bottom. It's going to be a 7,200 square foot, mostly storage building. It's a non-conforming structure. The property is subject towards zoning development standards prior to use. I'm sorry, excuse me, I have notes messed up. The landscaping, he's requesting alternative compliance for a number of the required items relating to landscaping and screening for which he has provided in detail in the attached papers. The most impactful requirement is the landscaping in the rear of the property or the north side. Our code standards require that he has a masonry wall, has several feet of landscaping, composing of trees. However, that's mostly already in there, very aged, very large, high caliber trees, and a wood fence is along the rear of the property. So this is the portion of which he is asking for the most alternative compliance requests. And on the map you can see here locations in the north of the side of the property where he is asking for alternative compliance. Public notice was provided in the town's official newspaper for publication on September 26th. Letters were sent to property owners within 200 feet. The total number of letters sent was 6. We did not receive any letters in favor and opposition of the request. All that being said, staff recommends approval of special use designation, contingent upon a review of any additional proposed variations. The applicant has requested a variation to exterior masonry requirements and the rear buffer and screening requirement. At the time of the memo, the applicant was working on a proposed list of additional site plan variation requests, and the list was provided to you all. All that being said, we recommend approval.
Okay. Questions for staff?
I think I did receive an email.
Yeah.
Did you guys get that email with some citizen about?
No.
Did you guys get that?
Got it.
Yeah, I did. I received nothing.
What was it in regards to?
I think this,
Yeah, it was.
I don't have my phone, I have it.
I don't usually get any reception.
Did we not approve this one time before for a contractor shop and it didn't go through?
It was a different applicant. This piece of property, it could have been up for an SUD. I don't know. It may have been before my time.
It was for a company doing some furniture and it didn't go through apparently.
Not for this location unless that was prior to
It
my
was the old spa warehouse.
This is the old spa warehouse,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that was the one too.
Okay.
I believe we've already approved it for
Now keep in mind, at the time, contractor shop didn't require a SUD until
Right.
the Unified Development Ordinance was adopted. So it may have been just a site plan previously, but that use was allowed prior to the Unified Development Ordinance.
right. I just know we've seen it come through before and it wasn't like 5 or 6 months ago.
He did mention that there was variances given, and I wasn't sure if he meant to the properties to the west because it's the same owner. It could have been that, but it was nothing pertaining to what he's asking for now, so I didn't further investigate.
Properties to the west received some variances to allow for exemptions from masonry requirements and some other requirements for screening that we're talking about now for this property that were addressed.
Okay.
This property has lie dormant for quite some time, at least a year. With that being said, now that it's been a year, it must be updated to the current code requirements
Right.
for the exterior. There are some difficulties with that just because of the type of building and the previous uses that were allowed. That's the reason why the applicant is before us. There were some proposals before it became a non-conforming structure. It was a legally non-conforming structure, and he was working with the town in order to do something like this
Right.
with a proposed tenant, but things kind of fell through. Now we're having to go through this
That's the way
process.
I remember it.
Yes.
I actually looked at that building to move my shop into, right after the spa warehouse moved out.
We probably would have had to refrain from this. Abstain.
Mr. Chairman, several of us received a letter from a citizen. I forwarded it via email to everybody on the commission. I just asked it to be part of the written record for tonight.
I've never seen it.
I know you have it in your email. I'm just asking it's part of the record because that way it's
When was it sent?
sometime today, this afternoon.
I just checked my emails up before I came.
I just now sent it. I thought it had been sent to everybody. I'm only asking it to be part of the record.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions for the staff? We will now open the public hearing on this. Anyone wish to approach and speak about this project, please do so. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Mike Hood. My address is 322 Parkview Drive, Sunnyvale. On your map there, that is my house in the corner of the cul-de-sac. I apologize. I did not receive your letter, so I don't know what happened to it, but I was just told about this a few days ago. I've got a few concerns. One is that the buffer in between that property or the building and our house, as explained, that's our wood fence. We put up the wood fence, 8-foot fence, so we'd have some privacy. You know, obviously, if you're going to develop that land, we'd want something more between that. Even the facility there, the Adele Corporation that's by us, I mean, they have a nice little kind of a wooded, you know, type buffer that goes in between us. I would at least ask that y'all ask them to do that. Another thing is, a few months ago, I noticed there was some traffic coming from, on our cul-de-sac, there's the utility easement, and then the utility easement goes back up to the highway. So you can pull up through that utility easement, and you can pull down behind our house, and you can pull back onto that property. And you know, we've never noticed this before. We've been living here for probably 3 years now. But a couple months ago, and I don't know if it's people looking at that property or how to develop it, but yeah, the pictures there can show you. But you can pull right through that gate, and there was a lot of traffic back and forth a couple months ago.
Excuse me.
And
The
that's
gate right there at the beginning, I guess in the corner, you can see it.
Yeah, so the picture up,
Right
so
here.
yes, right there. So
Wow.
that's my house in the, is that the corner there?
This-
I know
this
that
would be
gate
your house.
above here. So right above that picture. That picture, see that gate? Just to the left is my house. If you're just to the left of your arrow is the utility easement. So you can pull from Parkview Drive around my house, open that gate, which, you know, there's no lock, or you just push it open, and then you can drive back to the property. I have a huge concern about, you know, doing a contractor's facility right there on 80, because I can imagine, you know, if, I don't know what size company this is, but if they're running, you know, 5-10 trucks, or if they grow or something like that, and there's a wreck on 80, I can see everybody shooting right behind my house as an outlet to get, you know, out of there quicker than sitting on the highway and trying to get out there as well. So, I mean, that, to me, that's not.
You may know the answer to this. Is there not a fence around the main structure? all the way around?
No, there is not.
The applicant has stated there is an existing.
Oh, well, I take that back. So there might be some type of barbed wire?
So they couldn't come around through the back and get up to the back of this building without putting additional gates or something and looking at the site plan? Because it's fenced all the way around in the front of the freeway, all the way around the back.
The applicant's contractor's here in case.
With the exception of that gate there.
But the gate's back at the very, very back of the property.
The
There's
structure where they're gonna have the shop is.
Oh, it has a fence around that structure? And let me ask you this, because this is new to me, like I said, a couple days ago. So the property, in this instance, if y'all do zone it and they are able to move forward, anything, so how far back are they able to use that property? Because that's another concern of, you know.
I will ask the owner, but I believe according to what I've read here, it's just the property. They're not even going to use the, there's a little barn in the back part of the property that
Right.
they don't have access to, period. But we can ask the property owner.
And I guess my concern is, you know, if this business doesn't make it or the lease runs up and they choose to lease it out to another company of similar type,
They still have to come back.
they have to come back through and everything. So if I mean, I can't 3 years down the road, look out my back or something and see, you know, 45 cars just parked in the back here.
Not unless it's rezoned or another SUD.
All right.
It would have to come back through before the commission.
Okay. Well, I would at least like for you guys to entertain the thought of a barrier between that so that, you know, that would eliminate any situation of somebody just pulling, you know, going straight back through that property or.
Okay?
You said there's a gate there without a lock.
Correct.
Who does that gate belong to?
I have no idea. I would assume that, I thought it was a utility, but I know those aren't utility vehicles that were going back through there a couple months ago. I don't know if they're a contractor, but I know, you know, big 4x4 trucks and stuff, they're not,
Survey for it too.
yeah, it could be survey.
If it is a utility-owned property, they have to remain open. It has to provide access. So
Right,
may have been a surveyor, somebody working with their company.
right. Yeah, and I understand. That's my problem is that I could see that leading to,
Yeah.
you know, the utility crew goes back that way all the time. Well, hey, I'm blocked here. I got to get to my appointment, so I'm going to haul it back that way. And then I got 10 trucks following suit back there. I mean,
From what I'm seeing, that their fence goes along the Texas Power and Light utility right away.
right.
Back behind their building, probably 20 or 30 feet, and then back up the side and then back to the street. It's fully fenced in.
So that is their gate.
That gate's on the main part of the property, but what they're asking for this SUD is only the front part that's fenced in, from what I'm seeing, and the landowner can let us know that.
Okay.
So it doesn't, they can't use it all the way back. Is that not correct? Just the SUD is only for this front area that's fenced in?
That is, now, it'll be for the property, but the specific tenant, the specific use will be for this site.
Only this side?
On this site. So the fenced-in area.
So nobody else could be in the back of that without the owner?
The owner. And what my understanding is, and that he can come and speak, or his representative can come speak, the northern portion that we're talking about won't be available to the tenant. Only the buildings in question that we're reviewing now.
All right. Also, is that building, is the reason that it can't be 90% masonry because the building isn't in good enough shape to do that, or?
That's what the applicant has communicated to us, that it won't support that veneering, the weight.
Is that the type of building that you want to present in Sunnyvale? On the Highway 80 right there? I mean,
You can request alternative compliance, so we're giving him that option.
all right.
Thanks
I appreciate your
for making
time.
more questions we answered. Would you like to get up and
Sure.
speak? But probably should have had you up first.
Well,
Maybe you
I
should
tried to get here.
have solved some of the
Yeah,
problem.
it's okay. Robert Krause for the Motley family. That fence goes all the way around. We just added new fence to the right as we're looking at it. So that's brand new chain link fence. The gate here on the left will be locked. There's another gate, which some contractors went through to dump dirt about 5-6 months ago. We put in 2 text dot driveways. So that gate will be locked and will remain locked. TXU on our right, we have no control over. They can drive up and down there all they want to. They can't touch our properties. This particular tenant will have access to the fenced-in area, to the building. They know that there's very, very limited, if any at all, outdoor storage. Everything will be inside. They've asked for landscaping. We've met that obligation. We're actually going to cut our concrete out and put in extra trees
Okay.
to make sure. That's what y'all asked for, so we're going to do that. Right.
Instead of the planters?
Yeah, we didn't like the planters. We're gonna cut the front out,
Okay.
plant new trees. There's a real nice picnic area with very mature trees. This was actually the family homestead, and some of the first families that ever came to Sunnyvale. That's where they lived. This barn was built by the family, and it's built very well, but we just don't believe that putting brick all the way up, all the way around does anybody any good. So we're trying to dress it up as much as we can. On the right, y'all required us to put in a dumpster and a compactor. We're gonna do that. We're gonna brick that in. We'll cover that up, and then we'll also put that on concrete. We've met all the needs for parking, including handicap, and I think we've met all the requests as far as our fire lane goes too. Be happy to answer any questions. I think we've done everything we can to meet what y'all have asked us to do.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Sir, one question.
Sir.
Sorry, it might be in here, I've seen it also. Specifically to the fence in the rear portion of the lot.
Right.
It seems like the person that lives adjacent to this put up a fence, a wood fence, and they're saying,
Well, if you
it
look,
seems like it's a long distance.
it's a long distance, and there's a bunch of trees back on that back, and I'm not real sure what happened back there. But there used to be an entire row of trees back there. Who knows what happens? Somebody else owned that lot, somebody else owned the lot next to it. And so a bunch of those trees just all of a sudden went missing one day. So, but nothing will happen behind this building. And that little silver barn was an old cattle barn. And they have no access to it whatsoever, zero, none. There should be no traffic outside of this fenced area. If there is, please call us, because we won't go away. There should be no traffic out there whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else want to approach and make comment? If not, then we will close the public hearing. Questions, comments from the commission?
Has the staff determined that it is onerous to put additional brick around that building, or that the building won't sustain that?
We haven't had a structural engineer look at it, anything like that, but yes, typically what you would have is a brick ledge with, whenever you're having someone install brick, and that's done during the construction process. This was, of course, done years ago, so there's probably a means to clad the front, but I mean, it could be costly, it could be. I know that, like we're talking about the previous, the properties to the west, their facade, I believe, was bricked. I'm not certain when that was done.
On
Subsequent.
2 sides.
Only on 2 sides.
Yeah, the side they put the garage doors in the front
Right,
is the only 2 places that they did it.
right. And I haven't had a chance to really look over it and see if they have a brick ledge or if that was done after the fact. Of course, the commission could suggest, it's acceptable, but we recommend the full facade be bricked, or however you feel would best suit this use.
Real quickly, I built all those buildings. When we first built them, they all had little small brick offices, so we tried the best we could as we added on. We bricked them and met the city standards. This building's just unique, it's just so big, we just don't know, it's going all the way up. We'd have to put, we'd probably have to put piers in to go all the way around the building. I mean, sure, it could be done, but at the cost of what, 100 grand maybe? I don't know, we just don't know.
Right.
So nobody's around it, nobody can see it from the back. So we're trying to dress the front up the best we can to meet your standards.
And that's what staff, I mean, the variation process is part of this. And we're also considering the fact that the building is sitting dormant for so long. And it's going to continue to run into these issues as far as either starting from ground up or using this property the way it is and try to make the best.
Well, another thing, you've got a huge metal structure right next door to it on the other side of the deal. I think that the building itself with a little dressing up on the front like they've got shown is a good thing, because that is what faces the street. As far as the rest of the building is concerned, I don't see any need of putting any more facade on it or dressing it up. It is a several hundred yards from the properties in the back, and it is next to a very large metal warehouse building right next door. So I think it's appropriate for the area that it's in. That's just my own personal feelings. Anything else? And I'll entertain a motion to either accept or to deny. Don't be bashful.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Is, when you accept or deny, can you
approach, please?
Sure.
Sorry. Some of us are hard of hearing. Would like to get it on the record.
Is there an option to at least try to accommodate some of the homeowners in behind there that we put a buffer or something in between the two?
From what I'm seeing, there's a fairly large buffer there as far as trees. Are you saying that?
There's
that's the only place?
I mean, you can see my fence, and there's a few trees there, but it's not like the buffer that's in between the building to your right there. I mean, there's a good size.
There's a barbed wire fence that is literally falling apart, and is what they're calling your fence.
Yeah, I mean, that's our fence, the 8-foot fence, and
Right.
those trees are very sporadic across that.
I think you run into the problem where you require the developer to put some trees in there that will take years to mature in a fence that you already put up that's probably nicer than any sort of buffer that you can require them to have. I mean, I'm trying to think through this. But
Yeah,
I
know,
what you're
but
saying. If you had an alternative, the alternative is to require them to put up an 8-foot masonry wall.
We're happy to be a good neighbor, we just don't know what to do that far back. I mean,
Yeah, I think what they're saying is that if they put up an 8-foot masonry wall back there, it might look out of place. And
Right. No, I would think more trees and stuff like that across there, because you got to think down the road. I mean, you know, he's going to lease that out to a contractor now.
Yeah, my thought
but
would be have you guys work together
See-
and sort of like figure out what trees you want to put back there. I think
I don't even know who like I said, I got a hold of this a couple days ago, so I'm outside on this.
the contractor is just a word y'all use for your zoning. They do nothing on site. Everything's off site. They pick up, leave, come back. There's nothing done on site. So there's no noise, no nothing.
I think what he's saying is there's a couple of trees in the back in case the fence falls
Well,
down.
Yeah, we'll kind of
We
fill it
can,
in there so that,
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years down the road, like I said, you know, this lease may play out and he might lease it out to somebody else and it'd be more of a distraction. I mean, it sounds like they're low playing the distraction that it is now. It probably is, no argument there. But I'm thinking future reference, you know, 10 years, 15 years down the
To be
road,
clear, it's.
who all's going to be there?
I'm sorry. To be clear, it's already zoned highway commercial, so it's not a zoning change.
Right?
It's a special use designation, and it'll be designated for a contractor shop. If years down the road, they want to start driving heavy equipment in there and parking on the back lot, they're going to have to get a special use designation for that. They're going to have to come back through the process and ask for any changes made to this, they're going to have to come back to the town and ask for the change.
I think we have to add 6 trees on the front. I mean, if this gentleman agrees, we'll put the same in the back, on the back fence line. It's just hard for us to go all the way across the pasture. So we'll run a water line now, so we put trees on the back and it'll buffer the building from beyond out. I mean, if that's acceptable, we'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it right now.
Well, then we run into problems where if you get these these trees that are not taken care of, then you look worse than, you know, you're
Right.
running to.
That's what I'm saying. If they'll stay inside the fence, we'll do it.
We've come across this problem before, and people require trees, and the trees, no one takes care of them, and then they die, and then it's, you know, it's, so we have to be careful what we ask for, I think, sometimes.
I understand.
And the property right down the road, the two other pieces of property on the Motley, we put a large berm at the back, and that was it. But with the 8-foot fence, a berm's not gonna do any good in the back part. I'm looking at this picture that's on the screen right now, upper right-hand corner. It looks like the gate is on the TXU easement, because you have a fence going all the way around your property, almost to the corner of the properties of the subject property. So that gate's got to be on TXU property. There's a little purple, light purple arrow right there where he's got the pointer. That looks like the gate. So that's TXU property. That's not this property that we're discussing this time.
Yeah, I don't know where the TXU lines end and where they meet. I know that that gate's like right at the end of our property line, which would be,
It looks like, from the satellite view, it looks like there's a little purple arrow on the screen, if you can see it. Their property line and your property line, here's this, you can see the shadow of your fence right here,
sure.
and this is their property line. So it looks like the gate is right here, which is not on the subject, their subject property. So unfortunately,
So Tom, I'm reading this as it's one shade tree for every 40 linear square feet on the back side. Is that what the,
Yes, yes, sure.
so that's what we can require them to do is one shade, I don't even know how long that is, probably. So it's one shade tree for 40 feet,
which would be the same as on the front.
maybe a few trees.
So 6 more trees.
So I think if you work with them, you'd probably get
Yeah.
more than one per 40 feet.
Hey, I'm willing to do that. Like I said, I didn't know anything. This is all new to me.
No, I
so-
understand. Sometimes these letters go out and people get surprised, and the impact
And-
is,
and
I'm
I-
glad that you're thinking about the impact in years to come, because I think more people should think that. But I think they're trying to make a structure that's going to essentially go unused. It's going to look worse if we don't do something to it.
Right. Well, I have a little familiar. I mean, we own a company, and we were trying to buy a building in Forney, and the city of Forney wanted, to buy it. It had to be brought up to code, and I mean, it was going to cost several $100,000. So we chose not to do it.
Yeah, and we
Same type deal.
We talked about this when we redid the UDO, that we shouldn't make it an onerous process to take a building that was built prior to existing technology and make them put $300,000 into it to make it have some brick on it, because we like brick, I don't think
Right.
But Rashad, how can we fix this tree issue? Is it, can you broker the trees or what?
Well,
He said six on
he
the
said they
back
would put
of the,
more trees on the back.
inside the fence so that they'll be watered.
Inside
Right,
the
we'll,
fence.
we'll put them inside this property without a problem. We just can't go all the way back there and expect them to.
So what you're saying is maybe right behind their building?
Yes, sir, right next to the fence line.
Well, it seems like a better place.
All right. Yeah, at least some type of buffer that we.
And then
I think the city calls for a 3-inch diameter, 10 foot.
Yes.
We'll be happy to do that, no problem at all.
Yeah, that way you can have a place for them to be watered.
And we just need to run a water
Get
line.
irrigation to them.
And we were gonna do something anyway, because, since they're requiring the contractor, or what the hell they call it, outside, then we gotta do something with that too. We're gonna put a brick wall around it, so we wanted to hide that anyway, just so.
Sounds like you've got some help.
All right.
Thank you. I guess we actually, we didn't open the public hearing, but we'll now close the public hearing. All right.
I would just ask that your motion include that
Include the
recommendation.
trees.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the SUD with the caveat that we amend it to include the facing trees as discussed during this meeting.
Is there a number on that, or leave it up to us? 4, 5, 6?
We're talking about setting, we said 6 in terms of discussion.
6?
Yes, sir.
It would be about 6, it's gonna be like 1 per 40 feet, every 40 feet. So we can say 6.
approximately 6.
And those trees, just to be everybody aware, it's going to be back up towards the building, not on the back property line.
Then the fence.
Just as a buffer back there. That makes more sense.
So, Mr. Chairman, all that.
Is that a technical
Is that a
term?
technical term?
I second that. Do you have any additions?
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes.
Was this
Thanks.
second? Second.
Who did the second?
Both did.
Shirley.
Oh, okay.
Or John.
Three did.
There's 2 seconds. All right, thank you guys for coming to our P&Z meeting. We'll now close this meeting out at 7:36.
Send me an email. We'll do it, whatever it is, we'll do it.
Send a thing tomorrow with the